Coaches are usually only appreciated when their team wins big. The rest of the time, they remain gray cardinals standing behind trying to lead their teams to those same victories. The same could be said of the hero of today's video, Blade. After all, if we appreciate all his contributions as a coach, only some of his colleagues, such as Sonic, can compete with him. So let's try to understand the genius of Blade today. What led him to coaching, what most of the top players from Eastern Europe owe to him, and why he is considered one of the best, if not the best, coach of our time. Even before Andriy Gorodetsky's name became associated with coaching, Navi, and so on, he was an ordinary Kyiv amateur CS player who started his career in 1999. His professional career began in 2005 when Andriy joined one of the strongest Ukrainian stacks at that time, Amazing Gaming. In addition to Blade, such well-known esports figures as Strike, Chaos, and Starix played there. The team's greatest achievement was a third place at WCG 2007, a tournament that was a kind of analog to the modern majors of the time. By the way, it is interesting to note that Amazing Gaming was not the only Ukrainian team that imposed the fight on the Counter-Strike scene. Their regular rivals were Prosto, a team from Kharkiv that usually took prizes from Blade and company. Since then, his scouting nature began to manifest itself. It was he who noticed the young Esanina, with whom he managed to play in the same Amazing for some time. Later, he changed his nickname to Senya, played in Prosto, and then became one of the players of Navi Golden Squad in CS 1.6. During his career in CS 1.6, Blade will prove to be one of the strongest players in Eastern Europe. He will have time to play for such well-known teams as DTS and Kirchnet, which were also considered one of the strongest teams in the world at the time. The release of CS:GO not only made adjustments in this area, but turned it upside down, setting its own rules and conditions for everyone involved at the time. And here, you either accepted them and adapted, or you ran the extremely high risk of being eaten by the system. For Blade, the CS:GO era began with Kirchnet, and later he founded his own team, Courage Gaming, which would later be called #. During this time, he noticed the future king of CS:GO, Simple, and invited him to join. You can learn more about this in one of our previous videos. The link is on your screen and in the description. Andriy's next home was Dat.Team, which later came under the wing of Flipside Tactics. Objectively, they were more or less stable top 2 players who played in 8 majors in a row, but they failed to show good results in any of them, and the goal was completely different. As it later turned out from the words of the players themselves, the goal was to qualify for the major and get their stickers in the game, which in turn brought quite good profits for both the players and the organization. Playing on Tier 2 not only allowed you to earn money from stickers, but also to see new faces in the Counter-Strike scene. Thanks to Blade's eagle eye, not only Simple, but also many players from the temporary swamp territories were discovered. In the middle of 2018, Blade realizes that it's probably time to put the mouse in a long drawer and move to a coaching position that can best unleash the potential that has been accumulating in him for years. The same flip side became a test pen, but since they failed to qualify for the major this time, the team was disbanded, and Andriy was able to find a place in Gambit. He tried to bring his own vision of the game and team strategy, but it took time that the players didn't want to spend, and Blade was blamed for most of the team's failures. Blade left the team and was invited to join the most prestigious team in Eastern Europe, Navi. However, it was not as a coach, but as the director of esports direction. He had no direct influence on the teams, except that during certain kitchen talks, he could give some advice and suggestions, but for the most part, he was involved in managerial activities. He coordinated vacations, boot camps, supervised direct managers of other rosters, and other organizational matters. Apart from that, he was an important voice in the creation of the Navi Academy, a youth roster aimed at developing young talents who could eventually become worthy personnel on the Tier 1 stage. Monacy, Headtrick, Fear, Bit, and many other young men who had once gone through the Navi Academy passed through his hands. 6 months after taking over, Blade finally received an invitation to coach the main team. The reason for this was that Zeus decided to end his professional career, and Kane went with him. In addition to working with Simple, Electronic, and Flamey, whom he had raised, Blade also had a direct say in the selection of other players. So let's take a look at what kind of foundation Blade came into his new role with. First of all, it's his extensive playing experience. By the time he stepped into the coaching chair, he already had 20 years of CS experience under his belt, which simply cannot help but give him a great understanding of both the game itself and the nuances that may be unknown to young players. Secondly, he had a huge amount of knowledge on how to work with radically different players of different levels. While still playing for Flipside, Blade had to watch a lot of different tournaments of 2-3 players because they were their opponents. Watching them, he noticed things that could be corrected and improved to help the player in his individual plan. And finally, this is the direct experience of cutting these 2-3 players because he selected such players for his team, such as Simple, Flamey, and Electronic, who came from his pen. The stage at the end of 2019, after taking a new position, can be called reformatting. The team had to completely change its outlook and approach to the game, as Kane and Blade had a radically different approach. The beginning of 2020 seemed to be better, but the full transition to online due to the coronavirus pandemic obviously took its toll, and the results were again below expectations. However, it was at this point that Blade noticed a new player that he wanted to add to his roster, Perfecto, a young player who had only played in a few Tier 2 teams. He is the exact concept of a player that Blade has been using throughout his career. All of the roster changes through 2021, including B1AD's move to the main roster, resulted in Navi not only becoming a stable team, but also a team that held the top spot in the HLTV rankings almost all year, won almost every tournament that year, earned the title of Intel Grand Slam champion, and most importantly, won the Stockholm Major, the first major in Born to Win history. As successful as 2021 was, 2022 proved to be just as stagnant. The beginning of a full-scale invasion and the need to rebuild the entire management in the face of war, another change in the lineup after Bummich's kick. These and a number of other factors contributed to the fact that the results gradually deteriorated with each tournament. Due to the decline in results, Blade and the rest of the team management decided to rebuild the team. Boomich and his crazy wife left, Electronic became captain, and SDY was brought in. At first, everything went well, but with each tournament, the results got worse and worse. So before the new year, Victor left. After Blade, he said that they would never sign a player over 25. I wonder if he's biting his elbow now that SDY become a big star in Monty and Ents. In 2023, Blade tried to make BIT 2.0, but NPL didn't have the talent or time to fit the team. This is not to say that he is a bad player. He can be good fragger and captain in B8, but he definitely lacks something at the Tier 1 level. Also, not every player is a good fit for Blade. The beginning of 2024 was pretty good, but not great. The team approached the major not only as a favorite, but even as a potential contender for a spot in the finals. As Blade himself will tell you, their program was to at least make it to the top 4. He was well aware that the team was quite young and might not have enough time. At first, the beginning of the tournament was quite pleasant for Navi, as a quick 2-0 lead gave him hope that the playoffs were near, but then 2 unfortunate mistakes and they were already 1 step away from elimination. But maybe that's the magic of a major. Well, you know the rest of the story. In a recent interview with HLTV, Blade noted that this is far from the band's peak. They have work to do, room to grow, and things to improve. He is well aware of the weaknesses of each player, and the main thing is that he is not afraid to talk about it because recognizing your imperfections is the first step to correcting them. This year is not over yet, and the Born to Win tag will face many more challenges in the future. The haters have already started saying that Navi got lucky at the major, and that this team will not show the same level of play in the future. We will see. We can only wish them success and keep faith and hope that after the victory in Copenhagen, Navi will only start to win and show the highest class at the next major in Shanghai, and Blade will be able to post many more photos on his Instagram. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and ring the bell. Hope you liked the video. Good game.